Hello and welcome to Solely Singleton Season 12, Episode 5. I'm your host, Brad. This is my co-host, Eric.
How's it going?
We've got a fun episode for you guys today. We just kind of came up with it on the fly by bullshitting with some patrons in the Discord, and we're going to run with it and see what happens. So for this week's episode, we're going to be covering a strange topic. It's sort of a top X list, but not in the usual way. This is cards that we want to cube with, but we would basically have to build a new cube to cube with them. This will make more sense when we get into the topic, but I promise it's an interesting subject.
Yeah, it should be pretty interesting.
All right, let's actually jump in though.
Sounds good.
Hello and welcome to the topic. We're back.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
All right, so to actually get into what this is, as 99.9% of our audience probably is aware, we have what is currently called the Starter Cube, which was originally called the Board Game Cube. And in this cube, in the original draft, before I even made my attempt at it, there was a card called Drakehaven. Drakehaven is 2 and a blue for an enchantment. It says, whenever you cycle or discard a card, you may pay 1. If you do, create a 2/2 blue Drake creature token with flying. Drakehaven being a rare means you can't really play it in uncommon cubes and stuff.
No, that's by definition.
But luckily, Drakehaven is a cheap card. So even if it's not a powerhouse, if you're playing a budget cube, you have a reason to play it.
It's also just a really cool card.
Yeah, but you want an excuse to play your cards, right?
Right.
So you want to find the right home for them so that you'll be excited when they show up in a draft.
Yeah.
So Drakehaven isn't in the current iteration of the starter cube. It fell out of favor. It's still a sweet card. I love it. But it's an example of a card like these that we're going to cover. They're cards that we want to play with, but I can't argue them in my cube, either because they're very low in power level or they require a gigantic shift in what I support in my cube. They could require complete tonal shifts of how my cube plays, but it's just in general. But that's the gist of what we're going to try to talk about here. So I've got 5 of them. I don't know about you, Eric.
I've got a couple, but I think there may have been a slight miscommunication. So when you sent over the text on Discord, you sent, get together lousy cards you want to play, but would need a new cube to play it.
I said a list of cards. Did I say lousy?
It was definitely lousy. So I took that to heart, and I thought we were making a list of cards that had like lice, are infested with lice.
You weren't even kidding. My text says get together a lousy of cards.
Yeah. So I was going to start with Chalice of Life and Chalice of Death. Because, it's got lice and it's a chalice of them. I mean, I've got a whole list. It's, Temple of Malice. I love that card, but not really an all-star in most cubes. Mind Slicer. That one's pretty sweet. You got all the Splice into Arcanes, because those are, Splice. So like Veil of Secrecy. I love that card, but not really one in most cubes. Similar to Shifting Borders. That one's sweet.
All right. Well, we're going to take a 2-second break for Eric to get together a list of cards instead.
Okay. Yeah. That aren't about being infested with lice. Got it.
All right, after a little editing magic, we're back with 2 lists of cards.
Yeah. It makes a lot more sense and is probably a better topic. But I'm kind of disappointed about not being able to talk about some of these. But
I'm more mad that you only chose 4 and I have 5, so now we can't make it a clickbait top 5.
Well, since you've got 5, you want to start off?
Yes. So when I started this list, I told you, by the way, if you pick Mindshrieker, fuck you, because it's the first one on my list.
That's fair.
So for those who have never heard this before, Mindshrieker is an old favorite card of mine. It was in my cube back in the 2010, 2011 era. I guess 2011, 2012 era because it came out in 2011. But old favorite of mine. Mindshrieker is 1 in a blue for a 1/1 spirit bird. It has flying and pay 2 mana. Target player puts the top card of his or her library into his or her graveyard. Mindshrieker gets +X/+X until end of turn, where X is that card's converted mana cost.
I also really like this card.
I know. It was great back then. Like, I really enjoyed it. The times when you would get the oh shit flips where your opponent would be like, all right, whatever, it's just Mindshrieker, and you're like, cool, no blocks, pay 4 mana, flip your top 2 cards, and you hit like land, which sucks, and then you hit their Baneslayer or something, and you're like, cool, ding you for 6, idiot.
Oh yeah, it's
and now Baneslayer is in their yard, which is even better because now you know they've got one less game-ending threat to play against you. There was like so many little niche plus sides to playing this card.
Yeah, and then like I mean, you can mill your own deck because you're playing a control deck, and like this is like your win condition at a certain point.
It really is, and like in the like super weird cases, you could like set it up with a ponder or something, but just in general, just the value's fine.
It just plays so damn fun. It really does.
Yes,
so you're like, what's going to happen?
But I have trouble from a power perspective putting it in my list. It doesn't hold up to 2021 Magic.
No.
I kind of want to make like a time capsule cube. That's like, what if we just went back in time 10 years to when Magic didn't have Okos and stuff like that. And we were just worried about 20-year-old mistakes instead of 20-day-old mistakes.
You still have to worry about like power and stuff, but whatever.
Yeah. It's good. I don't have too much with this one. There's not too much thought behind like what I would want to do. I miss Mindshrieker.
That's fair.
All right, Eric, your first one. And I swear to God, if you say Beau of Nylia, I am getting in my car.
It's not Beau of Nylia. It's Beau of Nylia. Is one
so
green for a legendary enchantment artifact.
Much.
Attacking creatures in control of Death Touch, and you can pay 1 and a green and tap to choose one. Put a +1/+1 counter on target creature. Beau of Nylia deals 2 damage to target creature with flying. You gain 3 life. Or put up to 4 target cards from your graveyard on the bottom of your library in any order. I've tried forcing this in your cube many times, and it's not good enough. I accept it.
No,
but there is a cube that exists where Beau of Nylia is good.
No, there isn't.
Yes, there is.
Is it 359 Beau of Nylias and 1 creature? The creature is still the pack one, pick one.
Well, I mean, unless it's flying creature.
It might still be the back one, pick one.
So, yeah, I mean, I don't think this was a crazy pick. I had to put it on there, though, just because I do really, really love this card, and it's not good enough in most cubes, but I would love playing the cube that this was good in.
Oh, all right. I'll let you have it. Just because
it's on brand. It's on brand.
Eric is contractually obligated to want Beau of Nylia and everything.
Basically, yeah.
So my next one is not a card that you would have pegged me for right away. It's Ramos Dragon Engine. Or, yeah, Ramos. I'm going to call him Ramos because that's a cooler name than Ramos. I don't want to watch Everyone Loves Ramos.
I was just going to say, everybody loves Ramos. Dragon Engine.
This bitch of a mother-in-law comes in. Ramos Dragon Engine is 6 mana for a 4/4 legendary artifact creature dragon. Ramos has flying. And whenever you cast a spell, put a +1/+1 counter on Ramos Dragon Engine for each of that spell's colors. And remove 5 +1/+1 counters from Ramos. Add white, blue, black, red, green to your mana pool. Activate this ability only once each turn. I really like Ramos a lot. I have no reason really to cube with him. I know some people have argued to just try him for value before. One thing that I know some people like is playing him in storm heavy cubes.
I was just going to say, are you really looking at this in a storm cube or in just like a value cube?
I don't really like storm as a deck.
I didn't think so. That's why I was confused on you putting this on your list.
If storm is in a cube and you're running Ramos, I will play Ramos. That sounds fun.
That makes sense, yeah.
But my version, honestly, would be playing like a weird multicolor only cube and putting Ramos in it.
So like a Ravnica cube or something?
Not even like Ravnica, like really like multicolor. Like a lot of Alara stuff, a lot of KTK stuff. Just really exploring the multicolor stuff. And it would be interesting if it was one of those cubes where every land is a Utopia or something, or every land is a dual or a tri, whatever.
Yeah.
Just really wacky, something different.
Okay. I see what you're saying, where like this is on theme, but you know, you have to have a certain amount of like colorless creatures to be able to support that.
Yeah, so I think it would be interesting to see a cube that uses Ramos for something other than playing Storm.
Okay.
I'm not faulting you for playing Storm. I mean, I usually do, but in this case, I'm not faulting you for playing Storm, but I want to see him played in not the easiest solution.
That's fair. Makes sense to me.
So what's your next one? At least it can't be Beau of Nylia.
No, I already played that one. No, the next one I think is probably my favorite out of all of it. It's Squadron Hawk.
Oh,
yeah.
A card that you've day 2'd a Legacy GP with. All right. That's
Hell
a good one. I approve of this. Squadron Hawk is one that definitely could have been on my list had I thought of it.
So Squadron Hawk is 1 and a white for a 1/1 bird with flying. When Squadron Hawk enters the battlefield, you may search your library for up to 3 cards named Squadron Hawk, reveal them, put them into your hand, and then shuffle your library. So obviously, Squadron Hawk is terrible in a Singleton cube.
Yes, it is.
A 2-drop 1/1 flying ETB, you could shuffle your deck, is not particularly great.
So my question is, are you looking to play a cube where when you draft Squadron Hawk you get multiple, or are you looking to play a cube where you
Multiples
have multiple in play, that like you can draft the Squadron Hawk deck?
Yes. Yeah, I'm thinking the Squadron Hawk cube that I am envisioning is a cube that allows for multiple of the same cards and really flexes on that, where you have, you know, let's say 6 Squadron Hawks in the cube, and you have to draft them if you want them. And, you know, there can be other multiples in the cube, but that's like that's the average power level that like picking a Squadron Hawk would be good enough. So you'd have to power it down a bit at the same time, but that's what I'm envisioning as my dream Squadron Hawk cube.
This appeals to me just from like my old story of playing M11 pre-release.
Yeah.
My brother and I drove out to like Flint to play at a pre-release.
Yikes.
And I had to call a judge because we were newer and I had pulled 5 Squadron Hawks and I wanted to know if you could play 5 in a deck.
Yeah.
And I had a Sun Titan in that deck. That deck may be the best pre-release deck I've ever played in my life.
Yeah, and like, that's exactly like kind of cube that I'm envisioning, where like you get to do stuff like that, and like that's like you're winning the draft when you put that kind of stuff together. Like, so it was one of these things that to me, Squadron Hawk is the epitome of you have to design the cube around it if you're gonna play with multiples that you have to draft like that.
Yeah.
So.
Are you going to play in this imaginary cube? Are you going to play the other Squadron Hawks? Like there's the vampire one from Ixalan, who was like a 3-drop Squadron Hawk without flying, but I think he was a 2/1 or something.
I would think so. I'd have to look at them, but yeah, there would be other ones like that. I don't think they would all be the same density though. I think that
That's
some
fair.
of them are probably, you know, there's only 3 of them. I know that there was a green one that was relatively recent within the past couple years that was also similar. So yeah, I think you would play those cards, but I don't think they would be all the same density just because they're at different power levels.
Would you do more of card name matters cards in that cube, like with like Relentless Rats, or
I don't know. That
is it too much of a theme at that point? And you'd rather only some of these cards have this theme?
I think that might be a bit too much because it really, the cube that I'm looking at for this really wants it to be special. You know, it wants the Squadron Hawks to be special.
Okay.
I see what you're saying, where it's like you could take that real far.
No, as I was explaining the concept, I was thinking of the downsides of it, where it may make it too gimmicky of a cube when you have just all of the name matters in large quantities.
It'd probably be super fun to draft once or twice, but I think that if you went too far, repeated drafting would not be entertaining because you'd be more on rails type thing of like, okay, I grabbed the persistent petitioners or whatever, so that's what I'm playing. So yeah, I think it would just be, a smattering of these style cards.
Okay.
But
just otherwise it might be like a normal cube and you're playing your Squadron Hawks because you're playing with swords and stuff and you're basically trying to build a Hawkblade list.
I think it would have to be toned down on power level. Maybe something like starter cube or roughly maybe a little bit lower than that. I don't know. Because like there's a certain point where like you're not going to pick Squadron Hawk over Oko, even if you have the chance of drafting 6 Squadron Hawks. So
yeah,
it's one of those that like you'd have to power it down. But in general, I think it would be a pretty standard list with this spice of 6 Squadron Hawks and some of those other ones like that vampire or whatever.
Okay.
What do you got next?
You're going to have a comment, and I'm going to cut it off to begin with. My next one is Hollowone, which for those at home, Hollowone is 5 colorless mana. It is a 4/4 artifact creature golem. Hollowone costs 2 less mana to cast for each card you've cycled or discarded this turn. Hollowone also has cycling 2. So the thing that Eric is going to try to bring up is that I did not pick Vengevine when I am a notorious Dredgevine addict.
Yeah.
But Vengevine in Cube has a problem of just being an efficient dude.
Fair.
And so while Vengevine's not making many cubes nowadays, it's still just a respectable 4-drop that's got some flavor text. I want to play the Dredgevine deck. I want to play the deck that's using Hollowone. I want to be discarding stuff, playing it from the yard. I want that huge amount of interaction with the yard in a deck. This probably needs to be a very deep theme in the cube in order to pull it off. Like, you probably need support in 3 colors heavily, at which point it's probably like part of a cube with a certain identity where like these are the big archetypes that are overarching through the cube, like be it a graveyard based cube or like alternate casting cost based cube, something like that, where there's a reason to run so many cards that are going to do a certain effect that is otherwise not the most efficient thing to be running in those slots.
So you're like you want to go deep with like Cathartic Reunion, Hogak.
Yeah. Hapless Researcher. I want all that stuff. I really want to make that deck a thing, like play 3 colors, either Rug or Grixis or something like that, and just go deep on it.
Then that makes sense and not Vengevine, because Vengevine, like you said, it can just be dude. Like, it's not the most efficient one, but
yeah, there's plenty of cubes out there where I can play Vengevine, and it's whatever.
Yeah.
But I want to play a certain style of Vengevine, which is what Hollowone represents for me.
Okay. Do you think that would also have, like, really go into Dredge? Or
Oh, yeah. Okay. I assume a cube that's doing this type of stuff, you have the splashes into the other things that are tangentially related to it. Like, you start with this cornerstone, and you build out.
Okay.
And you probably end up with a cube where there's all these spider webbing interactions between, like, maybe 30-40% of the cards in the cube have some string of interactions with this whole pile.
Yeah, so you're like, you add in Life from the Loam, and then maybe have some...
Yeah, you just string it along, and then that goes into a big playing back lands from the graveyard theme or stuff like that.
Yeah, like Night.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah,
it would be too much of a change in my cube. Like, it would be a rip out half the cube, put in a different section, right? But
yeah, because I mean, I'm It sounds awesome though. Like having so much synergy matters.
Yes, and
basically,
I could see myself, of all my options I've got in this list, I could see myself doing this in my cube.
That's fair. Yeah, as like this is what's gonna happen now.
Yeah. Like when we started playing with like Kiki combo, or when we did the big update to remove artifact deck and add in ninja deck, which was huge for me to do.
Yeah.
Whether or not that seemed that huge from an external perspective.
Yeah, that's true.
So it would be a big upheaval like that where I would be ripping apart my cube and just slapping in a different whole chunk of it. And it would have a new identity than it did before.
Okay, cool.
But this one of all of them is the most likely for me personally to make the cube of.
Right.
Because I think this could be just a mutation of my main cube.
Yeah, where it just adds in more synergies of this style.
Yeah. The majority of the rest of my list is stuff where it would have to be a different cube. It's just not in the identity of my cube.
Yeah, I think Mindshrieker and Ramos is...
Mindshrieker was the identity of my cube. Ramos, the way I want to play it, requires a special cube. And then some later stuff we'll get into.
Yeah.
But enough Hollowone, enough Vengevine. What you got?
Okay, this one's a weird one. But bear with me on this. Leyline of Anticipation.
Oh, I'm on Command Zone now?
No.
Is it Josh Lee Kwai, or is it... Who has the obsession?
I think
one of them has the obsession with Vidalcan Orrery.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's the one. Vidalcan Orrery.
But Leyline, Vidalcan Orrery, it's the same.
So, Leyline of Anticipation is 2 blue for an enchantment. If Leyline of Anticipation is in your opening hand, you may begin the game with it on the battlefield. You may cast spells as though they had flash. So, this is not on the list as I want to be able to play a cube that has Leyline of Anticipation. I'm stretching the rules on why this is on my list a bit. I want to play a cube that everybody starts the game with Leyline of Anticipation.
Oh, this... Okay, I'm in.
You see what I'm saying? Like, I'm saying, like, I want every game,
like when you play
player.
a DC 10 stack or Dream Hall's cube. When you play one of those, it'd be that, except this one is everything has flash. Like the whole cube, whatever it says on it, it also has the word flash.
Exactly. Yes. And I do think that you couldn't just put that in your cube or random peasant cube or whatever. I don't think that would play very well. I think you would have to specifically keep that interaction in mind.
Yes, while adding cards to the cube, and why you're doing this other than just everyone's playing at their opponent's end step. Exactly.
Because I mean, that's the basic. Okay, you just play on your opponent's end step, but like there should still be reasons to play on your main phase. Yeah. So that's why I do think that it could be a really fun cube, and it could also be a really interesting designer idea, like really flexing your designer muscles of putting together a cube where it's not just, okay, everything has flash and you just play it at your opponent's end step. So yeah, this might have been stretching what we were trying to get to.
No, I think this is perfect. Like this to me is a perfect what you would want to do.
Yeah. It's just one of those that like, it sounds interesting to me. And, I don't know what the end cube would actually look like because, I think it would be actually a pretty interesting problem to work through, but it seems like it would be a really, really fun cube. So, what do you got next, Brad?
So, let me tell you about my favorite Legacy deck, Eric.
Oh, God.
I just did my favorite Modern deck. Now it's time for Legacy. Eric, what's my next card?
What's the other one? The non-food chain one. That's better.
If you say Allurin, I will kick you off this podcast. Fuck
you. Exactly what I wanted to say.
Food chain is much better than Allurin. Fuck you, Allurin players. Food chain for life.
Okay, tell me about food chain.
Allurin is just Leyline of Anticipation with extra steps. Food chain is 2 and a green for an enchantment. It has exile a creature you control. Add X mana of any one color where X is 1 plus the exiled creature's converted mana cost. Spend this mana only to cast creature spells. So, Food Chain gets used in Legacy in a combo deck called Food Chain.
Yeah, it's amazing.
You basically use creatures who can be cast from exile to create infinite mana, and then use said infinite mana to either cast Emrakul or cast whatever to finish the game with.
Or more likely, you just end up beating them to death with mid-range creatures.
I was going to get to that. Eric.
Sorry, I jumped the gun.
Food Chain looks like a combo deck. It is a secret bad mid-range deck. Especially now that DRS is banned. We got punished for Grixis Delver's sins. Anyway, so Food Chain is a favorite deck of mine in Legacy. It's not very good. There was a time where it was pretty decent and like an off-meta fun deck, and now it's sad, and I've played every version in existence to try to make it work. I've paired it with all sorts of other decks, played it in all sorts of color combos. It was good again for like 20 minutes, and then it wasn't.
So, what's the cube look like to have Food Chain? Is it just a combo cube?
I think it has to be a combo cube. Okay. I think it needs too much depth to too narrow a range of cards to be just generally playable.
Yeah.
If you could argue, like, maybe you play some type of cube where, like with Leyline of Anticipation in your example, everyone has a Food Chain. That would get into the, like, we're on issue number 5,000 of a comic book. Like, what's happening this week? We're just stretching it to keep this fucking series going. That's what the Food Chain cube. That's the Food Chain cube. When that shows up on MTGO, they're out of fucking ideas. They're like, guys, anything.
Yeah, that's about right.
So Food Chain probably has to go in a combo cube, which is fine. There's plenty of really good combo cubes out there.
Yeah.
I would, in a heartbeat, play a combo cube that has a playable and decent Food Chain deck in it. You probably have to break Singleton to make this work. It's just too rough in a Singleton format.
Yeah.
Which I'm okay with, like, if you've got a combo cube where key pieces are duplicated and everything else is Singleton, or you just go, fuck it, this cube is ×2 or ×4.
Okay, yeah. I see what you're saying, where it's just like, you just have multiple of everything.
Yeah. It probably helps with complexity, too, for drafters, especially because it's probably, unless your playgroup is all psychopaths, it's probably a lot of people's first time drafting anytime they're drafting, so maybe limiting the number of cards is good with a cube that's already going to be complex by design by being a combo cube.
Yeah, I mean, even if it's not the first time, drafting, if it's a specific combo-oriented cube and you have, a bunch of different combos, it could be difficult during gameplay to actually, like, explain all the combos to everybody, like, when it's happening. And that's, I mean, I guess that's part of playing a combo cube is you get to tell your opponent, hey, look at what I did. But yeah, I mean, I could see a Food Chain cube come together. All
right, Eric, it's time for your last card, because my last one is going to be a bit of a joke.
Okay.
That pun will make sense in a minute, kids. Keep it in your heads. You'll be laughing. You'll be laughing in a couple.
You're setting it up.
Setting up the stage.
So mine is Eldrazi Monument.
I have good memories of this card. Continue.
As do I. Eldrazi Monument is 5 for an artifact. Creatures you control get +1/+1 and have flying and indestructible. At the beginning of your upkeep, sacrifice a creature. If you can't, sacrifice Eldrazi Monument. I really just have fond memories of this card. I'm not sure how much of that is rose-tinted glasses of nostalgia. Probably a lot, if I'm being completely honest.
It's 5 mana. Nowadays, this would cost like 3 mana.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, that's why, like, this does not go in a normal cube in any way.
Like, imagine them posting this
at a mythic,
in like as a mythic in the new set. People be like, "What the fuck happened to this card? Why isn't this 2 mana cheaper? I don't get it."
Yeah, it would be pathetic. That said, I still really do like the card. I like, the Anthem effect of giving evasion and indestructible, so you can just like
It's
swing
very strong. And a
Um,
lot of times, if you're a token deck or something, casting this may just win you the game.
Right.
But win you the game probably over 2 turns.
And that's kind of the problem, is like it's usually not just I cast this, I swing with everything that's evasive, and you take 24 damage. Haha, I win the game. It's I cast this, I've got a few dudes, you take 8 damage or 10
Yep.
damage, and then next turn I'll kill you. Well, by the time the next turn comes around, they've dealt with Eldrazi Monument.
Or it
It just, there are removals to artifacts in cubes. So
it's just
it's
I get you. I almost feel like this is a card where it would be like a spicy add-in, like what you try to do with Beau of Nylia. If instead you tried it with cards that could interest me, this would be it.
that's fair. It does feel like it's on the cusp of good enough for some cubes and interesting enough that it's like, okay, maybe I could be convinced. But yeah, it's just one of those, like, I love this card, and it's one of those that like you can always then like start thinking about, like, okay, how do I take advantage of every bit of it? I'm sacrificing creatures. Okay, how do I take advantage of that? And it's just like, I don't know. It's a cool card. I want to play more because it doesn't really fit in any constructed format, and if you play this in EDH, you're gonna die. Okay, Brad, you set up a stage. Let's hear your last one.
So my final card, it's a bit of a joke, kids. It's kind of funny. It's Croc's Other Thumb, which is an uncard.
Yeah.
Cue laugh tracks, bazinga, all that jazz.
God.
So Croc's Other Thumb is 2 mana for a legendary artifact. It's no normal artifact. It's fucking legendary.
That's a good thumb.
If you would roll a die, instead roll 2 of those dice and ignore one of those results. So
Is this a pun on the thing that I had earlier with the lice, but instead of
No.
lice, it's dice?
no, that's cute though. No, this one is, I've been playing a bunch of 40k. I've learned that
God.
rolling dice in a game makes it more exciting. And I would greatly enjoy playing a cube where dice rolling was a key part of it, and I think it could be very fun.
That's fair. I mean, the entire unset had a bunch of stuff with that.
Yeah, and it would probably just be an uncube, to be honest. But I don't even know if there's enough cards to make this good enough in an uncube. But
Yeah, maybe not yet. I don't know. But there was a bunch printed.
Old Buzzbark is the one that I always think of, because he was actually really cool to play as a general in EDH.
And points for being a goblin.
He is a goblin. He is a sweet goblin. He is showing Orcish Lumberjack what the fuck is up. Just chopping trees down with a chainsaw arm. I wanna play a game like this and see what it's like, but you and I both have this problem with uncards.
Yeah.
I want to pressure other people to play with them and have fun and, like, untuck your shirt, have a blast. But I can't. I can't loosen up enough to enjoy uncards very much.
Yeah.
Something is wrong where I can't have fun with uncards like everyone else does, and I've gotten unpackaged for our cube. It's limited in what it's got, but they're cards that I think could have been Magic cards, or are very fun and close enough to, we can figure out the rules if we have to argue a little bit. But certain parts of I just don't like. I don't like put your head on the table to make this card. Ugh.
Yeah.
That's
It's stuff like that just it becomes too childish.
Yes.
In a way, which is like, okay, it's great that some people can enjoy that just sheer joy of being a child again, but
yes. And to a large percentage of players, just being able to play silly things in Magic is just fun to them. But for me, it does something to my stupid brain where I don't enjoy it as much. However, cards like Croc's Other Thumb, to me, it's a funny name. Love it.
Yeah.
Callback. And it still feels like I'm playing Magic. Like, how is this an uncard versus Croc's Thumb, which is the same thing with coin flips, and that's a real card. But, like, I don't think you could do this one because of what's currently printed in Magic. So this one's almost like a back burner one.
Yeah.
Where there is eventually a cube, because I'm sure they'll have a dice rolling set coming out. Honestly, the 40K.
Yeah, I was like, there might be one that's related to 40K. Who knows?
Let's not. Gonna get people all in a tizzy. Let's focus on. There's going to probably be a set in the future where rolling D6 is a part of the black border set.
Yeah.
And at a certain point, maybe 20 years from now, if Magic hasn't jumped every shark on Earth by then, this card is playable in a cube. I would greatly enjoy to play that cube.
Yeah, and no, I'm with you. I think this. I'm also not a huge fan of like the uncube because of some of the things like you said, like put your head on the table and stuff. But rolling dice is fun. I can't deny that. And there's going to be a point where there's more cards like that. So yeah, that would be a sweet cube. I'm in.
All right, that's enough. This has been a fun topic, but let's get to the outro. We've got some news to cover.
Yeah, sounds good.
All right, we've got an important bit of news before we get out of here for the day. I know you're probably sick of it after 4 straight weeks of me saying it, but this is the last fucking time I'm going to tell you. Coming up in 2 weeks, we're going to be doing the THB Postmortem. This is going to be the first in our new style of these, in which we need the help of you, the listeners, to make the episode. This is your final call. As you hear this, this is the last week where I will be taking in emails. We need as many as we can get. We've got a good amount now, but I need a lot more. Send us in emails of any cards you played from Theros Beyond Death in the last year.
Or more than a year if, you're part
sure,
of Wizards,
actually, it's been like 14 months since the set came out, so a little more than a year. Yeah.
Okay, then. I was making a joke about Gavin submitting his hot takes, but
no, it's been like 14 months.
Time's crazy, man.
Yep. Email us at solysingleton@gmail.com, and you will be helping us help other people, and possibly you, by giving a postmortem episode for that set. Send us those in. As for our other piece of news, for any patrons in the audience, you've got this week to get in your votes. There is a 2-way tie for first right now, down from last week's 3-way tie. Gotta know who's gonna win it.
It's a tight race.
After this vote ends, next week, I'll be posting up another poll, which I will announce next week, or the week after if I forget. And that poll will be deciding an off-topic episode we have to talk about later in the season.
Yeah, it should be interesting to see what the patrons decide on that one.
So if you're a patron and you've got the correct perks to go do so, go vote. All right, that's the only news I've got this week. As for our schedule for the upcoming weeks, as we discussed on last episode, next episode is going to be the third part of the intro to 40K. It's going to be what army should you play. It's an interesting one, I promise. I've been working on show notes for this for like 4 fucking weeks now. It should be good. The one after that is going to be the biggest, baddest Theros Beyond Death postmortem episode that we can dream up. And then we're going to go on from there with whatever. We'll see after that.
Yeah, that's pretty far out scheduling wise.
3 weeks is a long time from now. I'll probably be dead from allergies by then.
Oh, God.
It's going to start, Eric. We've got like a solid 14 days of life left.
That sucks because you're right.
Yeah.
And I hate
Come
it.
April, it's all over. We're fucking dead.
Well, that's some exciting news to end the news section on.
All right. I'm Brad. You can find me on Twitter as @DrRuler. You can find Eric
on Twitter @OneQuilosora.
The show's email is, as always, solysingleton@gmail.com. Serious final request. Please, please, listeners, send us any Theros Beyond Death testing results you have. I promise you're qualified. Send them.
Send him so he shuts up about it. The show's website is www.solysingleton.com.
The show has a Patreon, which is patreon.com/solely-singleton.
And you can just find us around in the MTG Cube communities.
All right, that does it for this week. I hope you all enjoyed this kind of interesting episode that I enjoyed making. I hope you all tune in again next week. Until then, send us those goddamn emails. Eric, take us out.
Real quick, I need to add in one more card so we can name this a top 5.
Okay.
My 5th one, Wildfire.
Fuck you.